Tales from the Crypt.
Hello, boils and ghouls. Welcome to another special episode of Dads from the Crypt. Today, we're going to be talking about the second issue of EC Comics' Cruel Universe. And to help me with that, we have a wonderful guest returning from the last time we did this to review Cruel Universe number 1, Mr. Ben Dickow. Welcome.
Thank you. Hey, everybody.
All right. Well, it's been at least a week or two since you've been here, but do you have any announcements you'd like to make? Or first, I want you to introduce yourself for anyone that might have seen you before.
Sure.
And then I think you might have an announcement you want to make.
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, everybody, I'm Ben Dickow. I am I wouldn't say mastermind, but let's say the director and producer of a theater company out here in LA called Captured Aural Fantasy Theater. And we specialize in live multimedia productions of classic comic book stories. And we have the exclusive rights to perform all of the EC Comics catalog live on stage. We're the only place in the world that you can see them live on stage. And we perform, we perform all over the place. We were in Comic-Con over the summer. But the big announcement, this is the first time that we're talking about it. Like, it hasn't even hit the websites yet. But this is the first place, because it was just solidified this morning. On October 23rd at the Philosophical Research Society here in Los Angeles, it will be our annual Tales from the Crypt live show. It's our Halloween show. It's our annual Halloween tradition. It's going to be great. We've never played at the Philosophical Research Society, but this venue is amazing. It's actually it's been around for like 100 years or something like that. But just in the past couple of years, they've started to book performances. This place is LA in the 1920s was the place for every sort of like crazy out there religion, self-help guru, whatever. And this guy named Manly P. Hall founded the Philosophical Research Society. And in the, let's say, 40s or 50s, he built this whole complex right like basically below the Hollywood sign. And yeah, it's amazing. The library there is crazy, all full of esoteric stuff. I mean, it's straight out of like the horror library. But they got this performance space, and so we booked it.
That's awesome.
You heard it here first, everybody. And you can get information when tickets go on sale at our Instagram page, which is @CaptLA, CAPTLA.
Right. And I went to the one last year, and it's a blast. It's like an old-timey radio show, like brought to life. Like, you got music, you got sound effects, you got like performers dressed up. You even have like the ads. The ads were low-key my favorite part. They're just so much fun that you perform. And I'm assuming you're doing different stories this year, correct?
Yeah. There'll probably be one story that we keep the same as last year. There's, you got to do. There are a couple of stories that I rotate just because they're so good. But yeah, there'll be mostly all new material this year.
That's awesome. So it's a great way to, it's right in the midst of spooky season, so you can't go wrong with that.
That's right.
So again, I personally recommend it. Where was it last year? I was trying to remember.
Dynasty Typewriter, also kind of a hidden gem theater.
Yeah, that was a really cool space.
Philosophical Research Society is like the perfect kind of spooky, weird. That's exactly where you want to be during Halloween time.
Nice. All right. Well, all willing, I'll be there. Let's check my calendar because this is the first time hearing of it. So
yeah. Sorry, surprise.
No, that's great. I just I can't 1,000% commit to it, but I'm like 99.99999. But until I ask my wife, I can't fully commit. All right. Well, again, our reason for meeting tonight is to talk about Cruel Universe number 2.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Again, we've got some great covers here. Again, there's that really cool, really retro. They're all pretty retro actually this time.
Yeah.
You've got, I like the one with like the squiggly monster and the spaceship in the background. It's already kind of like pre-torn on the edges. That's a really cool
Mhm.
effect. And then there's one with like the scientist looking over a woman's head and the body in the background.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, that's
I
really
mean,
cool.
they're all really good, but this is definitely
Yeah.
that one's awesome.
Again, I kind of missed the horror host aspect in these that we were
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
with the tells the Epitaphs in the Abyss.
You're right.
Okay, they're doing what they want.
Right.
Okay, so our first segment is called organic with a one instead of the I, so organic. And anyways, we got these really cool kind of like mood setting pictures of futuristic society. It looks very Blade Runner to me. It's the
Mhm.
getting where there's this food company called Select Meat Company, and they can see them kind of shipping stuff in, and there's kind of a narration about how there was a great food shortage, um,
Mhm.
and they're kind of like, and one company has kind of monopolized everything, and then we find out we're talking to this guy who's kind of got his own farm. It's like a free range organic. I don't know what else you call it, but he's got his own farm,
Yeah, yeah.
pure and everything. His stuff is. But we also find out very quickly that he's not raising cattle because I think he says they've all gone extinct.
Right.
Using humans for the
Right.
meat. So there's all these naked people kind of walking around on all fours.
Mhm.
And he's being interviewed by some sort of I don't think they say it, but some other TV or newspaper, somebody.
Right.
It's all kind of near future stuff. And they've got like little drones and stuff following him around. And he's doing like a documentary
Mhm.
talking about uh, this process, and they say they want to see the butchering process.
Mhm.
And this we see there's like a young woman that he's kind of like stringing along with an apple, and he ends up putting the apple on the hook, and then he kind of comes up behind her and whacks her.
Yep.
And then we've got this amazing splash page where
Mhm.
there's like an outline of her body, but it's kind of like cut up into pieces, and then each piece is a different piece of art that all kind of like tells this really grisly cannibalistic story.
Right.
Um, really, really spectacular. And he's like, let's see, he gives away some meat to the outgoing people. They're all excited and everything. He waves them goodbye, and he's storing his quote free range people meat. And then we see what he's feeding them is actually the select meat, the stuff that he was just
Exactly.
railing against. So yeah, it's kind of a little funny joke there that a little bit of a hypocrite,
A little bit of a
a
twist.
little bit of a twist. I liked it. So yeah, what do you think of this one?
This to me is so much more horror than science fiction.
It's
um,
horror. It's like the horror in a science fiction setting.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, yeah, I mean, kind of what we talked about last time, though. It's like it's taking something that like a concept that probably they came up with back in the 50s, but just now 70 years later blew it into the 21st century. Um, so yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was interesting. Um, I really it's an indictment of capitalism. um, Also like what I was saying last week, uh, it also kind of it's it's like a nice update of that sort of the 50s, right? So it's you've got cannibalism and horror just like back in the day, but it's this indictment of the sort of hipster capitalism kind of stuff that's very much
Yes,
what's happening now.
the
Um,
granola capitalism.
yeah, exactly. I'm also there are a couple of like little just like aside things in here, like a pile of sausages and stuff like that. And I just am noticing that it looks like one of the people on the camera crew has like a wooden leg or something. It
Mm.
makes me wonder if maybe they sold off their lower leg to get ahead in the world or something.
Yeah, I see that. That's a good pull. I like that.
um anyway, I feel like I'm talking too much, but
No, please.
it made me really sort of wonder like, well, how does this society work?
I kind of
Like,
like that. I kind of appreciate that though, because it's like a keyhole into a larger
oh, sure.
society. But it makes me want to see more, which is
Yeah.
always a good thing.
Yeah.
Again, when you're doing anthology, it's good to be left wanting more than saying, no, that's enough. That's good.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd say the other thing about it is it packs a lot of punch into a
Hmm.
pretty short story. Like it's only like maybe 5 pages or less. Um,
Right.
so
And
anyway.
yeah. And just, I think I really love the art in this.
Mm,
The use of the panels is just really well done. And
yeah,
again, that
yeah, yeah.
one splash page with the woman's body is just so flipping cool. Like, I kind of want
Yeah.
that as a if it wouldn't freak out my kids and give them
Sure.
more trauma than the other things in my house, I would get that as a poster.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say this is a pretty brutal one. Like it's
Yeah.
definitely ratcheted up more than the previous issue.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Our next one is called Brilliant and Deceived.
Hmm.
So here we have it starts off with a funeral. Um and there's a guy whose wife just passed away. She died in a car accident. The husband uh is obviously upset because he was supposed to drive her, or he could have driven her, or what's he say? Uh
I would have driven her if she'd asked.
oh yeah, okay. Yeah, so he's saying, "Oh, I could have driven her, maybe she would have survived. She
Yeah.
would have gone to the accident." So he's like confiding in his friend, and his friend is consoling him, yada yada yada. But his friend is telling him that there is something you can do. Turns out that
Only he.
he this guy has perfected the husband has perfected a procedure to bring people back to life, but his wife has already always told him that it's been very against it, and she was discouraging him. But now his friend is encouraging him to do the procedure on his wife to bring her back. And when she comes back to life, the friend whips out a gun and shoots the husband because, twist, he was having an affair with the wife.
Hmm.
He was the one that she was going to go see when the accident happened. So he convinced the husband to bring her back to life so they could kill the husband. They could be together.
Hmm.
Um, what's I love about this? It's literally 2 pages.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were talking about how much of a punch the other one done. This one's like two
Yeah.
pages, tells a complete story, and you're like, wait, was that it? Like,
Yeah.
in a good way. Like, it just comes out of nowhere. And also, like, again, this is like a cover story too.
Yeah.
This is the one that they're referencing on the most distributed cover. So you're
Right.
expecting it to be this big grand story. So it's almost like a joke within itself
Right. Right.
that they can do like a 2 page story, and I'm perfectly happy with that. I love it.
No, this one I really liked. I didn't see the twist coming at the end actually. So that
Well,
was
because
pretty
you're
cool.
waiting, because you think you're still in setup mode. You think she's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
she's gonna come
exactly.
back to life, and she's gonna have some qualms or something about it. But no, she's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It was good. It was really good. I was actually also kind of surprised, but not so much. Just again, sort of the artwork choices and stuff. Like I didn't think that she was gonna have the scars and stuff like that of like the
Mhm,
Frankenstein.
mhm,
Because again, the cover sort of set me up for like an android or a robot or something like that.
right.
So it's cool. It's kind of like it's very much reminiscent of Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah, I mean, I would go a little further and say Frankenhooker, but that's
Wow,
depends on your cup of tea.
there you go.
Um, but yeah, this might feel like one of the most quote classic EC
Yeah.
stories.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I could almost see this verbatim
Hmm.
being an EC story.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's just really it's got that really quick punch, and that's all it needs. That's all.
Absolutely.
I want to say more because it's so impactful, but there isn't a ton more to say because it does what
Yeah.
it needs to do, and I
No,
think
I
that's
agree. I
the
agree.
best.
I think I do think that this would be like a half-hour TV episode. They could have
Mhm.
a lot of fun with some of the backstory and stuff like that, but it's like it's that perfect. It's just yeah, super simple story, easy to get, well done.
Right. And again, we're so used to the longer format that when it happens, you're like, "Wait, what's next?" Like, "Oh no, that was it.
Right.
That's brilliant."
That's all you need to
So,
say.
exactly. All right, our next one is called "And the Prophet Said." All right, so here we have a gentleman who is a janitor. at a company. He finds out he has inoperable brain cancer. Um, and turns out he works at a pharmaceutical company that just happens to be doing research to cure the exact type of cancer he has. So they bring him in, they say, we'll give you, we'll do this experimental procedure, yada yada yada, but it's very experimental. They're using some sort of AI enhanced procedure called SAP, SAP. Anyways, they do it, and when he gets home, he starts having visions, and turns out they're not just visions, they're like premonitions of what's going to happen. So he's like telling his wife, don't go somewhere. I guess there's a lot of car accidents in this episode with wives.
Yeah, really, that's true.
This time he prevents her from getting in a car accident by stopping her. And it turns out that he now has like this like special foresight where he can predict the future, but the company is all excited for it because now we can help them, play the market or whatever, or know what products are going to be successful, what products aren't. But at home, it's turning his life apart because he keeps telling people things are going to happen, or he thinks he knows what's best for his family. So they pretty much ditch him. And then he has the idea to try to expose the company for their legal procedures they're doing and kind of tank them. And then the FBI comes, and then he's like, oh, I got my bloody revenge. Yada, yada,
Right.
yada. All right. What do you think of this one?
I thought this was good. It was, it was fine. It was straight ahead. I thought I couldn't really tell where it was going. So I thought the fact that the twist at the end it's kind of justified. I thought that was pretty good. Pretty, yeah. I didn't know like if it was how either violent it would turn or if they were gonna somehow screw him over more. But yeah, I was glad that the good guy got it, or that the good guy got away with it at the end. But yeah, I mean, it was compared to the last story, this was okay.
Yeah. This one had a very cool premise that really could have gone places. It just kind of fumbled in the end, I thought. Like, I was expecting more of a twist, like he was going to set up the company or something like that. He was going to use his powers to like make some ironic thing happen to the company, like make them bet on the wrong thing, or
Right.
and he just kind of like exposes them to the media, and you're like, oh, that's it? That's the best you come up with? So I was really into this just until the ending, and yeah, I thought they could have gone somewhere more clever.
Yeah.
It just kind of doesn't. Artwork is pretty cool. It's got a fun style to it. And I thought, again, the fact that he got this very specific type of cancer that they happen to be researching was never really addressed. Like, I thought he was going to expose them for giving him the cancer.
Yes.
And unless I missed something, that doesn't really come back.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
So I would have liked.
It's hard to tell. Does he actually take the implant out? I guess he does.
Yeah, okay. I think he does, like on TV or something.
Yeah, okay.
Or he just there's like a picture of me. The ending's the ending doesn't really work very well. So again, I like the idea. It's always interesting when you play with those kind of things of like, if someone predicts the future, are they making a new future?
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of the Final Destination kind of thing. That's what it was kind of making me think of a bit.
Right.
And again, they really could have done something cooler with it than they kind of went with.
One thing, it's not in the ending, it's more in the middle, but I thought it was interesting how he kind of gets, he gets angry with his kids because he can kind of see that maybe the kid might do something that, might misbehave before the kid does it, or is accusing his wife of something because he sees somebody looking at. I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, this guy doesn't, it's more of a curse, right? And it, I guess that's sort of,
I mean, yeah, because he's not trying to be a bad guy per se.
Right.
But it's like, I can definitely see that as a father, if I'm like telling like, you're trying to correct your kids enough as it is.
Right.
Say, well, if you walk on the streets with your shoes untied, you're going to trip and fall in front of a car. But that's one thing. But it's another thing to be like, no, this is what's going to happen. Literally, if you do this and that. I'm sure as a family or as a kid, that would get very old, very annoying, very fast.
Absolutely.
So and again, I would have liked to have seen something more, maybe something more tragic
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
interesting.
in preventing a small accident, he might have caused a bigger accident.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
again, not to rewrite what's
Yeah.
happening, but maybe like by shutting down the company, they cancel funding for a procedure that would have saved one of his own children.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
that kind of twist.
Yeah.
Um, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I've all in all, is a good story.
No, yeah, nothing. Yeah. I was definitely along for the ride.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of rides, the next one is called Ray Gun, and it's about a former rodeo participant. I don't know what you call
Yeah.
what do you call
Rodeo performer.
performer. Thank you. Anyways, he got into some accidents. A couple too got knocked down a few too many times. He can't perform anymore. Works at a grocery store, but he still kind of misses the limelight.
Hmm.
And one day he's kind of walking around, looks like he's having some beers, and suddenly there's a big flash of light in the sky, and he sees some sort of spacecraft
Hmm.
crash right in front of him. And he sees this ray gun
Hmm.
laying on the ground. This is really cool, like 50s,
Oh, yeah.
space looking thing, with like that ball on the end, like they always used to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And picks it up, and what's going on with this thing. He just kind of shoots at his TV, and the TV like evaporates. Um, so he's thinking about, what can I do with this? So his boss calls him in the back one day, and he starts to threaten him, and he shoots his boss with a ray gun, and there's this really cool panel of his boss just like disintegrating. Again, I love that art. I would totally get that on my wall if it wasn't
Yeah.
too
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
traumatizing. And then he just kind of
It's
disintegrates into nothing. He's like, oh, well, guess that happened, but no one's
yeah.
going to know because he's disintegrated. And then, he's feeling pretty good about himself as you do go out to the bar. And there's some other like really cocky guy that, I guess was friendly with his ex-girl. Oh, it's his current girlfriend or ex-girlfriend.
Yeah. It makes me think it's ex-girlfriend because he's down on his luck.
Right. Anyways, so later on that night, he finds this guy in the car with his ex-girlfriend, and he shoots both of them with the ray gun. Again, some really cool like gore panels. And right then there is a bright light, and there's a kind of Men in Black
Hmm.
figures show up and take him in for questioning. And they're telling him that what he saw tonight was a plane crash where a bunch of people, including children, were killed.
Hmm.
And he's like, no, that was a spaceship I saw. I was like, no, it really was a plane crash. This is a trauma response. You're kind of seeing things. He's like, well, about this ray gun? And they're like, well, it's actually just a toy. Can't you tell? And he picks it up, and then he presses it and it just makes like some noises.
Hmm.
And then he kind of loses his mind a little bit, and they have the men in the white coats take him away.
Hmm.
Then it turns out that there actually were aliens, and they were just covering it up.
Indeed.
So I was totally bought into that. Like, I was like, that's kind of fucked up. That he was actually, he thought he saw a spaceship instead of a real aircraft. They kind of had me going for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then we get again a final panel where like there's these doctors experimenting on all these little green men, and some really
Mhm.
cool, like you can see like shards of the plane sticking out of their bodies.
Yeah.
Really cool, gory stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think of this one?
I like this one. I like this one. I think I like this one. Well, for a few things. I like the sort of retro quality to it.
Mhm.
By the way, I just want everybody to know that I'm not only into comics for what they were like 70 years ago, but I definitely gravitate towards that. So that one panel you were talking about where he shoots his boss, um, that is straight out of, I think it's Chamber of Chills, like
Mhm.
number 47 or something, but yeah, it's some guy has a little block of radium and it's doing that to him. It's a classic cover. So it's super cool to see that, somebody really did their research. Um,
Nice.
I love that. Actually, the the I thought the story grounded in something when he goes up to that guy in the car and he melts him, and then he doesn't realize that behind him was his ex-girlfriend, because he was like, oh, Becky with a question mark, and he realized, oh, he just disintegrated this guy. She saw him, so he has to make the decision, or he makes the decision to do the same to her, which I don't think was pleasant for him.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that was interesting. It was like, oh, there's a little bit of emotional depth there.
Yeah, it could use like another beat or so where they kind of hesitated, because it seemed
Sure.
like he did it pretty quickly, and then they go straight from that to the Men in Black showing up.
Sure.
So they kind of like that one emotional beat could have used a little bit more breath.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, overall, yeah, this is a really fun one. I really enjoyed this.
I also wanted to say that I kind of like the Easter eggs, I guess, throwbacks, that the two Men in Black guys, one is kind of Will Smith like, and the other guy is a little bit like Mulder.
You know what? That makes all sense looking at them. Yeah. I don't know 100% that was intentional, but I would totally buy that.
Yeah. It's just a little, it looks like a little bit. Yeah, I thought this was good.
Yeah. Overall, this might be my favorite issue, both for Epitaphs from the Abyss and Cruel Universe.
Nice.
Overall, this is my favorite. I'll go ahead and say it. The first two, I think, are straight bangers. The fourth one is really solid. The third one has a lot of potential. It doesn't quite reach it, but we can't all be zingers. So, yeah, I'm kind of torn on the first. If I like the first or the second one more. The second one just is such a punch and so unexpected.
That was definitely my favorite of all of them. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm really torn, but I really like the second one. I like both the first and second one for kind of different reasons, actually. Just for the world building and kind of the elaborate artwork and concepts, contrasting to the second one, which is very straightforward but very punchy.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, I thought that this issue did a nice job of blending the sort of really gory with the kind of fun, but not overly fun where it was just super toss off. Yeah, I thought this was a really well balanced book. And that second story for me, that's my top. I thought that was just so good. What they did in two pages was fantastic.
I mean, anyone that's saying, "Oh, this doesn't have the EC spirit," I would show them that one.
Oh, absolutely. And that the cover that I like, the one with the woman's head on the table and stuff like that. That's just it's such a stunning cover to me. I think it's fine to say, but you and I went to the sort of preview release party back in July, and you could choose, I think, from 2 or 3 posters, and this is the poster that I picked up. Like, that cover was awesome.
Right. Yeah. There's so much. I'm looking at right now. There's like so much detail in what's happening there. Just like her look and her eyes are just kind of telling a story, and then there's the body behind them with the knife. I'm like, I kind of wish we got more of that story. Sure. I'm so happy with the story we did get.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm curious on how they correlate the pictures and the stories. The pictures on all of these have been, inspired by the stories, but obviously not directly or influenced by the stories. But I'm interested if how he kind of got from the story, what they gave him, to what the picture actually is. Because you see the connection, but it's also very different. And not saying that's bad.
Yeah.
It's an interesting contrast.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I wonder if the cover artists are just given the concept because the writers are still writing, or the artists are still drawing. So they did what they thought they could get from the plot. So that's about it.
Right. Or maybe the story changed at some point. I'd be interested if they like actually had like a 4 or 5 page story and they're like, cut down to 2 pages.
Yeah.
And see if that works.
Yeah. That's true.
It's funny because I'm always so interested in the story behind the story.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. Well, any final thoughts?
No, I mean, it's nice. I'm still excited that they're doing these cool, interesting things. And, my feeling is that, we've only read, there's 2 issues of this title. There's just a few of the other title, like we're just at the beginning, and they're good. So where's it going to go from here?
If anything, yeah, I think the second issues of both of them have been much stronger.
Yeah, sure.
Than the first ones. So people, that's what I keep saying, is like, let them get their legs behind them, let them get some, let them figure out what they're doing. And the fact that we're getting like 2 of these a month, is really exciting. I'm really enjoying it. It's
Absolutely.
I've never really been exactly a regular comic book consumer. Like I've never like followed the series as they come out. So this is very cool. I'm really enjoying that. All right. Well, I think that wraps things up. Ben, why don't you remind people where they can find you and what you got going on?
Sure. Well, you can find us at CaptLA, so at CAPTLA. That's our social handle. So Instagram is probably the best place to get us. But we're Captured RL Fantasy Theater, and we will be performing our Tales from the Crypt live show here in LA on October 23rd at the Philosophical Research Society.
All right. Well, thank you, Ben, again for coming on. Pleasure as always.
Thanks for having me
on again soon. I think that wraps everything up. I appreciate everyone for listening. I'd really appreciate it if you would give us a rating and a review on iTunes, a rating on Spotify, and like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. And you can always find us on TikTok at Dads from the Crypt Talk. And with that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.